He only wanted a steak, nothing fancy, just a quiet meal to pass the afternoon, but what the waitress slipped onto the table with his check changed everything. Nobody paid attention when he walked in. Not at first. It was a slow Wednesday in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Heat shimmered off the cracked pavement outside, and the kind of tired silence hung in the air that made even breathing feel heavy. The steakhouse sat inside a faded strip mall between a liquor store and a check-cashing place. It was forgettable, the kind of place people stopped at once and never thought about again. But Daniel Whitmore was not just stopping by. He stepped inside wearing worn denim, scuffed boots, a faded cap pulled low, and a brown leather jacket that had seen years of road dust. He moved the way older black men learn to move in unfamiliar spaces, calm, quiet, careful, no sudden gestures, no sharp edges. His eyes stayed steady. His voice stayed low, not because he was scared, but because habit had taught him survival long before comfort. The young host barely looked up from his screen. "Table for one," Daniel nodded. "Somewhere quiet, if possible." The host pointed him toward a booth near the front window, table 7. It faced the room but gave a clean view of the kitchen doors. Daniel slid into the seat and rested his hands flat on the table. His eyes moved slowly, his head stayed still. He was watching. He picked up the menu and scanned it like a first-time guest, but he already knew what he would order. Daniel Whitmore was not just another customer passing through. He was the owner, the founder of what had once been a proud Southern steakhouse chain, Whitmore's Chop House. It started with one small spot in Tulsa back in 1996. Over the years it grew into 17 restaurants across 5 states. Daniel built it from nothing. Then he stepped back, letting others handle daily operations while he focused on partnerships, long-term planning, and protecting the legacy he had worked his life to create. Lately, that legacy was cracking. This Fort Smith location was bleeding. Bad reviews, slow service, high turnover, numbers that did not add up. His team gave him reasons, excuses, charts. Daniel did not want reports anymore. He wanted the truth, so he came alone, no announcement, no suit, no title, just his eyes and his instincts. The restaurant was half full, quiet, heavy. Servers moved carefully, like every step could be judged. Kitchen staff barely peeked through the swinging doors. Then she approached his table. "Afternoon, sir. My name is Jenna. I'll be taking care of you today." Daniel looked up, white woman, late 20s. Hair pulled into a messy bun, sleeves pushed up. She looked exhausted, guarded. "Afternoon," Daniel replied. "What do people usually order here?" Jenna glanced at the menu like it personally annoyed her. "Ribeye is still decent, comes with mashed potatoes and collard greens." "Let's do that," Daniel said, closing the menu. "Medium rare." She nodded and walked away without another word. Daniel leaned back and scanned the room again. Near the bar stood a large man with a buzz cut and tight polo shirt, arms crossed, watching staff like they were problems waiting to happen. That had to be the manager. The steak arrived quicker than expected. Cooked right, plate warm. The kitchen still had pride somewhere inside it, but the atmosphere felt wrong. Jenna returned, refilled his coffee, and set the check down with a folded slip tucked beneath it. Daniel waited until she walked away before opening it. It was not a receipt. Written in blue ink were 6 words. "If you are really who I think you are, please do not leave without talking to me." Daniel blinked once. Read it again. His face did not change. His heart did not race, but something inside him shifted. In the reflection of the window, he saw Jenna watching him without looking directly at him. Careful, serious. He had come looking for answers. Now he knew he had stepped into something deeper. This was not about missing money alone. Whatever was happening had roots, deep ones, and spreadsheets would not fix it. Daniel stayed seated, one hand around the coffee mug, the other holding the folded note beneath the table. 6 words, but they told him everything. She knew who he was, and something bad was happening here. He had seen this before, different places, same feeling, staff working scared, managers hiding behind silence, problems buried under routine, but this time someone had spoken up, quietly, bravely. He glanced toward the kitchen. The big man, Bryce, was still standing near the pass pretending to read a clipboard, but Daniel could see it. Bryce was not watching food, he was watching people. Daniel stood slowly, left cash on the table and walked toward the front. The host barely looked up again. "Have a good night, sir." Daniel did not respond. Instead of heading out, he turned down the narrow hallway marked employees only. Restrooms. He walked at a steady pace. Not rushed. Behind him, Bryce's voice called out, "Sir, restrooms are on the other side." Daniel stopped and turned slightly, looking for the manager. "That would be me," Bryce said, stepping closer. "You free to talk?" "About what?" "Just a word with my server." Bryce crossed his arms. "You have a complaint, you bring it to me. You do not pull my staff off the floor." Daniel met his eyes calmly. "Then you will have to get used to things working differently." There was a pause. Bryce studied him, trying to place him. Something did not fit. Finally, Bryce scoffed. "She is probably in the back closing." Daniel turned without another word and headed down the hallway. He found Jenna carrying a crate of lemons. She froze when she saw him, not surprised, afraid. "What are you doing back here?" she whispered. "Got your note," Daniel said. "Now talk." Jenna glanced around and pulled him toward a small storage closet. It smelled like cleaning chemicals and fryer oil. She shut the door and took a breath. "I did not know if you would read it, or if you would still be here. You said something was wrong," Daniel said. Jenna rubbed her face. "Bryce is not just rude, he is dangerous. Food deliveries disappear. Liquor counts never match. Cash drawers come up short on nights he closes. He cuts hours on the schedule, then clocks people out early in the system, so payroll does not notice." Daniel listened without reacting, and nobody says anything. "We are scared," Jenna said. "If you speak up, he writes you up or takes your shifts." One server caught him taking cash from the bar. She was gone by the weekend. "Why tell me?" Daniel asked. "I worked at your Bentonville location 6 years ago. You came for the opening. You tipped me $100 for helping a choking customer. You said I had initiative." Daniel nodded slowly. "I remember. I saw your face today. I did not think you would ever come back. Not like this. I needed to see it myself." "Well," she said, "you are seeing it." He studied her with quiet respect. "Tomorrow," he said, "I am coming back." But not as a stranger. Jenna swallowed, then leave through the side. Bryce has cameras on the front. Daniel stepped into the night knowing one thing. This was not just bad management. This was rot, and rot had to be cut out. Daniel did not go home that night. He checked into a cheap motel 10 minutes away, flickering lights, peeling paint, a front desk protected by thick glass, the kind of place that did not ask questions and did not offer comfort. The room smelled faintly of bleach and old smoke, but Daniel barely noticed. He sat on the edge of the bed with the folded note still inside his jacket pocket. Jenna's words echoed in his head, "Missing money." Threats, fear. He had built his restaurants to be safe places, not perfect, but fair. Places where kitchen workers, single parents, teenagers, and older staff were treated like people, not numbers. What he saw today was not fair. It was poison. At 10:17 that night, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. One short message. Side lot by the dumpster. 11 p.m. Come alone. Daniel did not hesitate. By 10:58, he was leaning against the brick wall behind the restaurant, watching shadows stretch under a broken security light. At 11:03, the back door opened. Jenna stepped out wearing a hoodie, moving fast and quiet. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. "I said I would," Daniel replied. They walked together until they reached the far edge of the lot. Jenna pulled a small silver key from her pocket and handed it to him. "That opens his locker, black duffel bag. He keeps a second phone in there." "Burner?" Daniel raised his eyebrows slightly. "You have been watching him." Someone had to, she said. This could cost you your job. My job was already at risk, she replied. Daniel nodded. I will look tomorrow. If this checks out, I will handle it. Jenna warned him. Bryce does not act alone. Glenn hired him, regional manager. Daniel's jaw tightened. Glenn had been trusted for years. The next morning, Daniel returned wearing the same clothes. No suit, no badge. The host barely noticed him. Staff moved faster today. Bryce noticed him immediately, their eyes locked. Daniel felt it. Control was slipping. After eating, Daniel slipped through the side door. The mop bucket still held it open. He found Bryce's locker and opened it with the key. Inside was a black duffel bag. Gym clothes, cologne, and a burner phone. No passcode, messages, initials, dates. He took photos of everything. Cash was rolled tight with rubber bands. Register money, quiet theft. In the office, he found a black leather ledger. Inventory that did not match, hours scratched out, tips reduced, proof the door opened. Bryce stood there. You think you are slick. Daniel stayed calm. I am not walking out as a customer, Bryce. I am walking out as the man who owns this place. Bryce froze. You did not do this alone, Glenn. Bryce laughed bitterly. You have no idea how deep this goes. I do, Daniel said. He walked past him with the evidence. The next morning, Glenn called. Daniel let the silence speak. You brought Bryce in to do the dirty work, Daniel said. Glenn denied it until he could not. Daniel ended the call. By afternoon, his lawyer had everything. That night, Daniel gathered the staff. Bryce was gone. Glenn would be next. Jenna stood tall. Fear drained from the room. For the first time in months, people breathed. 2 days later, a legal threat arrived. Cease and desist. Accusations. Daniel did not flinch. He called his lawyer. Let them try, she said. Daniel returned to Fort Smith. Back to the people. He met with a local reporter. Jenna told the truth. Daniel backed it with proof. The story exploded. Other staff from other locations reached out. Same abuse, same silence. Change had started. The following Monday morning, Jenna arrived early for her shift. The office light was already on. An envelope sat on the desk with her name written neatly on the front. Inside was an offer letter. Full-time position, benefits, salary, title, general manager of the Fort Smith location. Jenna read it 3 times before breathing. Daniel stood quietly in the doorway. You are serious? She asked. Daniel nodded. You earned it. She shook her head slowly. No one has ever stood up for me like this. Daniel gave a small smile. You stood up for yourself first. I just made sure it counted. That Friday morning, Jenna led her first staff meeting. No yelling, no fear, just questions. What is working? What is broken? What do you need? Daniel stood in the back and listened. People spoke without whispering. For the first time, nobody checked the doorway while talking. Daniel still had one decision left. The email came that afternoon. Request for a meeting from the company's CEO. Daniel agreed, but only on his terms. No office tower, no boardroom. They met inside the Fort Smith restaurant on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Closed to customers, but everyone still got paid for the day. Daniel sat at table 7 where it all began. No disguise, no hat, just himself. The CEO walked in alone, polished, careful. He extended a hand. Mr. Whitmore. Daniel shook it briefly. You have had quite a week, the CEO said. No, Daniel replied. We have had quite a decade. I am just cleaning it up. The CEO explained. Glenn was terminated. Audits were underway. Policies were being rewritten. Daniel did not react. He leaned forward. I want back pay for stolen hours, anonymous reporting lines, benefits for hourly staff, written policy changes in every kitchen within a month. The CEO hesitated. That is a lot. Daniel stayed still. I have spent my life being told what is too much. The CEO nodded. You will have it. Later that evening, Daniel walked into the kitchen. Jenna was wiping down the counter. He handed her another envelope. Inside was a $2,000 bonus and a note. For the day you spoke up. Jenna's eyes filled. I do not know what to say. You already said it, Daniel replied. Over the next weeks, the restaurant changed. Not just cleaner, calmer, staff stayed, Food improved, customers noticed. Fort Smith became the location people talked about again. One afternoon, a teenage dishwasher knocked on the office door. His name was Theo. "Quiet kid, hard worker. My mom worked for you in Tulsa," he said. Daniel looked up. "She said you helped when my brother was sick." Daniel nodded slowly. "Tell her I remember." Theo smiled wider than Daniel had ever seen. That night, Daniel stayed late. Everyone else had gone home. He sat in a booth with a simple plate of grits Jana had made. No garnish, just food made without fear. He looked around the quiet room. This was never about steak. It was about people, the overlooked, the tired, the ones who showed up anyway. If you have ever worked under someone who misused power, remember this: change does not start with a title, it starts with courage. Speak up, show up, and stand with the people who risk everything to tell the truth.